Okay, so we'll be here. Yeah. Okay, so those were what we just discussed. Were sort of was a general picture of samayas that incorporated all the different paths of the individual liberation, the bodhisattva path, and then the Vajrayana. Specifically, then, if you like lists, then you can think that Samaya on the Hinayana level. By Hinayana, I mean Hina means lesser. It's not a school of Buddhism. It's a attitude. I mean that you can have a Hinayana. You can be a Hinayana person practicing great perfection. You're still a Hinayana person. So Hinayana is taking one's own personal liberation as the paramount goal of your practice, as a way of becoming free of your problems. And the Samaya then would be to abandon or avoid seeking refuge elsewhere, like I mentioned, and abandon harming beings, oneself and any others, and abandon being influenced by others that have wrong view. That is to say, people who don't believe in karma, you shouldn't associate them with them from the perspective of being influenced by them. They don't believe in impermanence, eternalists, nihilists, people who think there's nothing after death. Especially as beginning practitioners, we have to incubate and nurture our fragile, frail, vulnerable attitudes. Mm-hmm. And from the Mahayana, in the Bodhisattva path of the Mahayana, we have a bodhicitta. And training in the bodhicitta is the practice of the bodhisattva. And the commitment of, and bodhicitta, as we know, involves aspiration bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. Aspiration bodhicitta is that wish for oneself and all beings to attain enlightenment. And engaging is, basically comes down to practicing the perfections, the 6 paramitas. The vows or the commitments of aspiring bodhicitta, I would say the downfalls of bodhicitta, what causes you to break your bodhisattva vow is abandoning any being. That's the number 1 thing to avoid. And then second is causing someone to regret virtue, to regret their virtuous actions, to discourage or cause someone to regret or feel bad about having done some virtuous action. Like someone was gave some charity or generosity of their time or energy with a good heart, and then you disparage or discourage them from that, or cause them to regret it, or even people who drop out to practice in a more intensive way meditation and retreat, something, and then you cause them to regret that by what you say or do or think. And then causing someone, a third downfall of engaging, of aspiration, bodhicitta, is to cause someone who has helped you to, if you make them angry or unhappy, and particularly that's a downfall of your bodhicitta, aspiration bodhicitta. And also, fourth is through your actions, your speech, or your your behavior, if you deceive others in order to improve your own status or your own position, you break. That's a downfall of aspiration bodhicitta, to deceive others in order to increase your own and put other people down so that you'll be up higher, that kind of idea. Then there's that was four things to remember, to avoid. They creep up on you, even you don't even know these things. We break these things all the time, or we do these things all the time. And in engaging bodhicitta, the four precepts, the four things to avoid are to praise yourself and disparage others. Can't do that. To not, if someone requests something of you or requests the Dharma of you, to not give it. Not give things or Dharma when asked. And then the third downfall is not regretting and purifying a bad relationship you have with someone, anyone. And the fourth is teaching what appears to be Dharma, but is not. Teaching not pure Dharma, but only something that seems to be or appears to be Dharma. So these are the four downfalls of engaging bodhicitta. And if you've received the 7-point mind training teachings, then the sixth slogan there has to do with the discipline of bodhisattva path. All of those are also part of the bodhisattva Samaya, if you've heard those teachings. Particularly the first one is not to abandon about the three principles of the path. And of course, the first one has to do with not going against any of your commitments that you've made. Again, it has that embracing the lower vehicles, the more individual vehicles, not abandoning refuge because now you're a lojong or a bodhisattva, bodhicitta practitioner or something like that, but you not abandon any of the vows you've taken. And then there's a whole list of other things to avoid there. That if you've heard those teachings, then you'll know what they are if you've contemplated them. Then on the Vajrayana level, they say according to the this I think Indian master Ashvagosha taught, and I heard this from a Dejan Rinpoche, who was likely pointing out or likely teaching, or because he knew, so he knew everything by heart, and so it comes from likely the teachings on the 14 downfalls, root downfalls of the way Sakya Pandita taught them. And many new school Karju Sakya, they use Sakya Pandita's commentary to the three vows is very well used. Nyingmapas also have this Ngari Panchan's three vows commentary to the three vows. That's been translated into English as perfect conduct. If you really want the super details of all the pratimoksha vows, the 256 vows, and all of the vows like this. But in the Vajrayana, then we have what's called the 14 root downfalls. And of course, one reason why what leads to the downfalls is not knowing what they are, which is, like I said in the first place when we started today, I wanted to go through this so that you would know at least. And of course, the other is that you, through pride, you don't respect the downfalls, or through laziness or indolence, you're careless or have mental distortions. So these are the four ways that we break, four ways we practice non-virtue, particularly having to do with downfalls of, well, the downfalls of particularly here, the 14 root downfalls. The first is having to do with your guru. Like I was saying in the first place, these teachings are for people who have received empowerment. So if you don't have empowerment, then you should sign out or something, because it doesn't really concern you. If you don't have a guru, then you haven't received empowerment. And then I won't go into it, but then there's a whole explanation of what it means to receive an empowerment. It's not just the case that you went somewhere where an empowerment was being given and you went through the, getting touched by the different things. But there's more to it than that to be able to claim that you received an empowerment, particularly well, if it's taught also how if you come away from an empowerment and your faith and respect increase and your devotion to the guru increases, then you can say you've received the blessings of an empowerment. In the authentic way, or not authentic, I say historically, but yet also is carried out these days. You would receive an empowerment, like the vase empowerment, and then you would do the practice of that empowerment, the generation stage practice, to some satisfaction. And then the guru would give you the second empowerment, a speech, the secret empowerment. And then you would engage in the mantra recitation according to the second empowerment. And then, based on your practice, then you would receive the wisdom empowerment. And then and then there's the fourth empowerment after that. So you would practice each one and bring it to some level of accomplishment before you receive the next empowerment, subsequent empowerment. These 14 empowerments, the 14 root downfalls apply to anyone who's received an empowerment. And the first one has to do with the guru, and to disrespect the guru is a downfall. To belittle, criticize, upset, abuse, or be contemptuous with your behavior, with your speech, or with your mind, by slandering, holding wrong views about your guru, by hitting your guru, striking your guru, or overtly criticizing your guru. There's a whole practice of Guru Yoga involved with Vajrayana also, which we won't go into that here. We've already talked about it other times, but there's a practice of how you accomplish Vajrayana practice based on Guru Yoga. There's no such thing as Vajrayana accomplishment without Guru Yoga. And so this first meaning foremost downfall is to tarnish your relationship with the guru by your body, speech, or mind. And there are different stages of downfalls. There is just like an infraction level, a kind of a breach. There's a violation, and then there's a complete break. So downfalls is like if you're falling, when you start to fall, there's momentum and so forth until you finally fall down and break your head. So there's incrementalities, and of course it's what makes up the act that determines whether or not, how fixable, how difficult it'll be to fix, to repair, to purify. So in this particular case, disrespecting one's guru, it's a complete downfall if all of the following are in place. One is that the guru is an authentic master. The second is knowing that the act will displease him or her intentionally in that way. The third is to directly offend with words or actions, directly. And fourth, it's done not for others' sake. It's not done for any similar purpose. It's just done out of your own mind, the poisons of your mind. And it would be done with your own agenda, as a part of your own agenda, selfish motivation. And also, what needs to be present for it to be a complete downfall is you have no intention in purifying the offense. And also, there are, it also is shaped or not, it's textured or colored by your relationship to the guru. And by guru, guru is a big word. It's a Vajrayana term. In Pratimoksha, when you take a refuge vow or a upasaka vow, the vow of a layperson, or a novice vow, your master, you could say, your teacher is called elder. And they guide you in how to uphold your vows. Whatever vows. A refuge vow is called the upasaka vow of refuge, because the vow is to not practice or to avoid harming. In the Mahayana, your teacher, your mentor, is called Gewe Shenyan, or Kalyana Mitra, which means Mitra means a friend, and it means a virtuous friend, a virtuous friend, someone who's a little bit more, has a little bit more, is integrated more in worldly matters. It's not like an elder who's like a renunciate, but the virtuous friend has a relationship with society, and therefore can give you more advice in your spiritual path. Kind of sees more where you're coming from, because they've been there. So they're more mature in that way. And then on the Vajrayana level, that's the Mahayana. And on the Vajrayana level is the Guru. Guru means this complete mastery of the Dharma. And Lama, sometimes the Lama means Guru. If you receive an empowerment from a Lama and accept that Lama as your empowerment Lama, then that has a weight. That has a weight. Some Lamas are then preceptors who like a refuge Lama, or a Bodhisattva, a Bodhicitta vow Lama, like a general Lama like that, or a Lama that you receive teachings from, a guiding Lama, or a Lama who It's called a Shakpe Lama, a Lama who is someone you would confess to. A Lama who you would maybe dump all your problems on, like that kind. And then there's a Lama who gives you actually the pith instructions, pointing out the nature of mind. So there's these different kinds of lamas, spiritual, that you will encounter on your spiritual path. Sometimes one lama is all of those. Sometimes one lama who's the most, and the heaviest lama is this one who imparts pith instructions. And empowerment lama is heavier. Guru in the Sanskrit, as I understand it, guru means heavy, one word. That's why Rinpoche always talked about guru as being heavy, like this. It's heavy to get involved with. The karma is heavy, good or bad. Everything is magnified. In the Sanskrit and in Indian usage, guru has a much more. Guru is kind of somebody who has mastered something, even like a sitar player or a tinsmith or something can be a guru. So in India, they still have that, just kind of like we have now in the dictionary, maybe a guru, like financial gurus that I use, and like that. So it's good to know, we should know what our relationships are with lamas. Sometimes lamas are just little babies who are born from lamas. They're called lamas, from Rinpoches, or a lama at birth, just because of hereditary culture, the culture of hereditary titles. Or if you did a 3 retreat, they call Drupe Lama, means a lama who is a lama by virtue of having done a certain systematic retreat. So it's like that. You have to know there's lamas and there's lamas. Then there's lamas who just start calling themselves lamas. And I don't think that's just in the West, which it's there, but I think just in general, there always there's that. I suppose Kala Rinpoche always said it's students who are the ones who makes lamas. They're the ones. We have titles, he says, but if the student thinks of you as precious, then you're a Rinpoche, and then they can call you that, but it's not like, it doesn't come from above necessarily. Just like the difference between power and authority. Power and authority. Authority is something that you're given. The name is given to you, and then you have the authority to act. The power comes from below. People give you power. I was given the authority to be the Lama here, that you have to give me the power. I don't have the power, it's different. There's some difference. So you should also understand the roles that spiritual leaders or individuals who you have reason to look up to, what role they play. And then regarding here this disrespect and so forth. And you can also consult The Words of My Perfect Teacher and other texts like that about how to relate to the Guru. to your spiritual teacher, whether it's a virtuous friend or a guru. The second downfall. So it's a downfall, especially if you do it intentionally, like I said, intentionally, with no shame and no regret, and you have no intention of taking your word, taking it back, you know. So then it's a downfall. Then that's a problem. The second root downfall has to do with the teachings. First is like the guru, and then the second is to transgress the Buddhist teachings with kind of a contemptuous disregard to the training, to the teachings, to disrespect or reject the teachings of Buddhas and the Lama who teaches what to accept and what to reject. And it's not just, well, it is to not like a teaching. That's a downfall. It's not a, it's a downfall. How we should, when we have resistance, of course, Dharma, the teachings of Buddha is deep. And there'll be things that will, and especially when you get into Vajrayana, and there will be things that make your hair curl or hair stand on end that you couldn't possibly think could apply to you. Or even teachings on loving your enemies is some, there's some resistance there. But we should always set aside, recognize that, I can't go there, but I respect that. And maybe in the future, I'll be able to have a more direct appreciation of that teachings. But right now, it just sounds so not me, in some ways. I'm not ready to go that far. Don't reject it. It's really, how do I say, bad karma to reject the Dharma. It really puts you in a very disadvantaged place in the future when that matures, when the fruition of that act matures. Some people, they like the Hinayana, they like just taking care of their own peace of mind, they have contentment. That's their relationship to Buddhism, and they hear about the Mahayana and the Bodhisattva path, and they don't like it. That kind of attitude. And the vice versa, disparaging the Hinayana. So all the teachings of Buddha lead to awakening. And in the Lojong, then you have respect for all religions that teach virtue, whose purpose is to make people happy. We don't know how it is that people will progress on the path, how they will enter the path. We don't know. We don't have that kind of wisdom. So we should have respect for all the teachings, particularly here. It has to do with Vajrayana root downfall, means transgressing the Buddhist teachings or having contempt for the teachings. Yeah, don't even when it says, even if you don't understand the teachings, don't transgress the teachings, don't reject the teachings. Then the third root downfall is to be angry at one's Vajra siblings. There's Vajra siblings, or spiritual siblings, we could say. We should say spiritual, has to do even with all sentient beings. And then we have kind of relationships with people like world. In the world, there's Buddhists, like all kinds of Buddhists. Countries that have Buddhism. Anybody who's a Buddhist, even people who admire Buddhism, that's one kind of family we have. Like there's all sentient beings, but then there's people who are Buddhists or who claim to be Buddhists or like Buddhism or admire Buddhism, these kinds of people. And then there's people that are really into it, really practicing Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, really have a bodhisattva heart as a practitioner or as a person and walk the talk. And then there's those who are Vajrayana practitioners who have entered into a mandala, who have received empowerment, which is what qualifies one to be considered a Vajrayana person. I guess is if you received an empowerment, then those people be more and more cautious. We have to be basically as degrees of caution in how we think and speak and act towards those people. So Vajrayana people is more intimate. Then those who have the same practice, same mandala, they're practicing the same mandala. Then those who received empowerment from the same guru, more intimate. Then you receive the empowerment at the same time from the same guru. Those are your most intimate Vajra siblings. Those you really have to be most respectful towards. And from the point of view of a downfall, the one to be most cautious about being angry at. Like I said, everything in the Vajrayana has a sort of magnification aspect. It's like the sun shining on grass and putting a magnifying glass between the sun and the grass. It causes it to catch on fire much quicker because of the increasing intensity of the light from the magnifying glass. The Vajrayana is like that magnifying glass. So it's more difficult to remove negative karma, to purify negative karma with your Vajra siblings. So that's the third one. So just disrespecting the guru, even you read Words of My Perfect Teacher, that has to do with the guru's family members, even the guru's dog. I personally have a bad karma there, because Rinpoche always had dogs. I don't mind dogs at all. I love their sort of unconditional wagging tails and all that stuff. They don't care about who you are as a person. They just kind of love you. I like that, but I respect that. I aspire to that. But he used to have these dogs with, those that would bite. Also, Daishin Rinpoche, also, his family members had a dog there all the time. They would snap back and bite you, Because the dog was I think it was a relative, was Chico. They called it Chico. And Rinpoche always said Chico, like a chi means a dog, and ga means like wild, kind of like untamed or unwieldy, kind of Chico, like a guppa is kind of a wild person. I thought, oh, Chico, it was Chico. It was like Spanish, like Chico. They gave it the name Chico. But they, yeah, Rinpoche used to laugh. He'd come in as one of the little dogs, and always, that always reminds me of that. So I really have to pray about that. Then the fourth one is the first three have to do kind of like with the body, speech, and mind, or the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Guru is the Buddha, the Dharma disparage the teachings is a downfall, and then the Sangha. So the first three might be easy for you to remember, to think about it like that. And it has to do with disparaging and rejecting. Then the fourth is to abandon love, resolve never to help a particular person or being, even briefly, or longer, or forever, the worst. That you want them not to be happy. And the fifth is to lose bodhicitta, to become discouraged and to think that it's not possible to liberate all sentient beings. It's like Avalokiteshvara, as he was training as a bodhisattva, he took a vow to practice to liberate all sentient beings. And he spent eons practicing love and compassion for all beings, purifying the 6 realms. And he thought, well, by now there must be fewer sentient beings suffering in samsara. But through the vision that he did gain from his practice, he saw that it was worse. And then he said, forget it. It's hopeless. I'm just going to attain Buddhahood. And then he broke his vow. Then he realized he broke his vow, and then he retook with Amitabha as his preceptor. And he said that if I break my vow again, then I pray that at that point my body just breaks into 1,000 pieces. And so he did again the same, practicing the paramitas for eons, and then saw how samsara was still beings were still in samsara, even more suffering. And so he had that thought come up again, like, what's pointless? What's the use? I'm going to just achieve awakening, become Buddha now. And his body went into 1,000 pieces, and he felt the pain of it. If your body was deconstructed into 1,000 pieces. He felt the pain of it, and he just screamed out in pain. And then Amitabha appeared to him and blessed him and told him that he needed to have a much stronger resolve to attain awakening to benefit beings. And so he put him back together again with 1,000 arms in order to be able to engage more fully in liberating sentient beings with 11 heads and 1,000 arms. So that's the kind of the origin of that particular expression of enlightened compassion. So this fifth one is that sort of being discouraged and think that it's not possible to liberate all sentient beings is a downfall. Can't lose bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the root of Dharma practice. Like a Patrul Rinpoche says, if your practice isn't driven by bodhicitta, the root is rotten, he said. Also, this another aspect of this losing bodhicitta has to do with losing your what do you call it? The seminal essence, the tigle. Not to lose your, like at an orgasm, when you have an orgasm, not to lose your seminal tigle, your seminal essence. It's the support of bliss, not to lose it out of desire. That's if you are practicing Ana Yoga. When you're practicing winds and channels, you're practicing winds and channels, but if you lose your tigle, they call it, means bodhicitta. Bodhicitta also, we use semen and words like that. So, since that in Anu Yoga, then you learn how to withdraw your bliss and upward, not outward. The bliss has to do with, bliss is like an outer bodhicitta, and their tigle is relative bodhicitta. So this bliss relies on retaining bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, the tigle, the drop. Anyway, this is applicable if you are engaged in that kind of practice. Traditionally, or as I know, if you want to practice yoga, like this kind of yoga, winds and channels and things, first you have to become a monk or a nun. You can't experience ordinary sexual climax. Then, as you refine and purify your karma, enter into the bodhisattva path and so forth, and then practice Vajrayana Vase empowerment, and the secret empowerment, second empowerment. That's the time when you're introduced to winds and channels, controlling your wind, prana, and purifying the subtle conduits of your prana, your energy. Then the third empowerment has to do with the tigle. Then once your channels are purified, then you can work on the rising of the tigle. Anyway, these are all things having to do with the higher tantric teachings. But just like they say, if you lose aspiration bodhicitta, then you automatically lose engaging bodhicitta. So like if we take the four immeasurables, love, compassion, joy, and impartiality as the practice of relative bodhicitta, and the six perfections as engaging bodhicitta, then engaging bodhicitta without the four immeasurables as a basis, it doesn't. It's impossible. It's not the practice. Not even Mahayana Buddhism. So generosity, patience, discipline, diligence, meditation, wisdom, all are supported by the root of the aspiration bodhicitta, the four immeasurables. Then the sixth of the downfalls is to disrespect others or Buddhist spiritual teachings, to claim that they're, like a Mahayana people disparaging the Hinayana people disparaging the Mahayana people. Well, there's no such thing as Mahayana. Forget about even Vajrayana, but there's not even bodhisattvas, this kind of thing. To claim that their philosophies or practices are pointless or not true, or just to show blatant disrespect is one of the sixth Vajrayana root downfall. Even on a ordinary level, it just creates anger and hatred in others. Every teaching, we're talking about a spiritual path, for heaven's sake. Every teaching provides a step for the next teaching. Maybe, especially here in the West, although there's a growing population of Buddhists who are second, third generation Buddhists, Westerners. But we all came out of something, some religion or parents that had religion and rejected it. And we grew up in a rejectionism kind of, or whatever you would call that, So there's good cause to respect how religion affected us in a positive way, either by giving us a good sense of right and wrong, or by giving us a, what do you call it, an idea that we needed to be careful about organized religions, being very, very skeptical of religious establishments. All those are steps Then we meet the Dharma and have some affinity with it. Then we have to reinvent or refine that, and always be, on the one hand, take refuge, which taking refuge means a lot of extraneous paths are eliminated. You can't sew with a two-pointed needle, like Rinpoche always said. You can't sew with a two-pointed needle. So having to disrespect that is to disrespect that process is a root downfall. And the seventh is to disclose secrets to spiritually immature people. That is having to do with Vajrayana, particularly. So for people like me, it's quite dangerous to teach. I don't know who's tuning in. I don't know 50 years from now who's going to come across this audio or video of this or what. So it's these are just these days. So disclose teachings, secret Vajrayana teachings to spiritually immature people is a downfall. Spiritually mature meaning just completely worldly, with completely kind of, I don't know, not tunnel vision exactly, but who just only just complete materialists who don't believe that there's anything going on other than what they perceive through the holes in their head. Eyes, ears, nose, taste. That's it. Or, like I was saying, people who are eternalists or nihilists, people who think that at death, then everything, just the lights go out and you're done, and that's it. There's no experience that occurs after that. Or you go someplace permanently when you die. Eternal life. They're both spiritual and mature people. Don't talk to them about Vajrayana. They may not even accept compassion as I know, so-called, good Abrahamic believing people, Judeo-Christian people who think of compassion as not good. And then people who are only sort of depressed or weary about the world, but have no incentive to help others. This kind. Or particularly in the Vajrayana teaching way, not of giving certain teachings without people who haven't completed the proper practice before they receive those teachings. Or teaching Vajrayana to people who have whose Samaya has deteriorated. or even teaching or teaching or revealing, disclosing emptiness, shunyata, to people prematurely or who are inappropriate because they lose faith or become they're afraid of the profound. I met people, when you get too, even just in conversations, if it gets too profound, like, whoa, that's too profound, and they want to get out of there. Like, whoa, maybe you know these kind of people. So then, not to deter or have them lose a grip on something that they could understand, that might provide a finger hold to move on the spiritual path. So this kind of idea, it's called disclosing secrets to spiritually immature people. And 8, where is that? Okay, maybe later if we have time. Results, different secrets. I have also extra. The 8th is to abuse or to disparage your body, particularly, not just your body actually, but to abuse or disparage your own aggregates, your skandhas, or others, but this falls under the category of believing that that your body is the source of suffering, and then as a Vajrayana practitioner, you're introduced, like I was saying, the very first empowerment is to introduce you to the truth, to the fact of the purity of your skandhas, that your skandhas, your form, feeling, perception, disposition, and consciousness are all the 5 Buddha they're all 5 Buddhas. The 5 wisdoms are all, in fact, that's what they are. We're now experiencing not those wisdoms directly. We're experiencing form, which by nature is suffering, and feelings, and so forth. The skandhas, we experience the skandhas as the basis of samsara, not as in their true nature. So to abuse these aggregates, psychophysical aggregates, since they really are Buddhas, they really are Buddha nature. And then but instead you regard your body as a problem and engage in self-mortification, severe ascetic practices, sort of as a torture for your body, maybe to separate your mind from your body or something, you have a negative view of your body. Of course, the Buddha taught the middle way. His first teaching, the first turning of the wheel, Buddha taught how we should avoid this kind of self-mortification and also self-indulgence. Find the middle way. This doesn't mean that you won't have to undergo incredible hardships, by the way. It's taught that. We do have to undergo hardships on the path. We're not overlaying our mind with a new, fresh, clean set of thoughts and emotions. We are shredding our old habits and thoughts and emotions. And sometimes we massage them into place. Sometimes we have to beat them into place. Sometimes we have to surgically remove them before they invented anesthetic kind of things. But it has a purpose of purification in that way. So this is important to contemplate this, not to abuse yourself or to disparage yourself, especially in the Vajrayana. Then ninth is to this ninth downfall has to do with shunyata, emptiness, non-self. How it's written is to disbelieve or to doubt what is pure by nature. Pure meaning devoid of self. In general, in Vajrayana, we can say purity means non-dual. As soon as duality rears its little head, that's impurity arises. So purity is, we could say, means non-dual. To disbelieve what is pure by nature, that is devoid of self or empty of identity, is a downfall. Failing to appreciate, even to appreciate, to aspire to emptiness, failing to see it as something to admire and yearn for, or to have doubts about, or to think that, oh, non-self, emptiness would be how to attain happiness, but that's about it. That there's no connection necessarily or failure to appreciate that emptiness has the potential of full awakening, Buddhahood. Yeah, that 9th. And the 10th is 10th has to do with, I guess we'd say, it says have love for the wicked. It has to do with being in a position where it has to do with, this has to do with kind of incorrigible people, or people who people who want to harm all sentient beings, people who want to harm a Buddha or harm the guru, who have malice, hatred for all beings, wish to destroy the Dharma. There's kind of these 10 different, I don't know, criteria for dealing with people, and to have they're untamable. Basically, they're untamable by loving kindness. This is a Vajrayana. Like I always say when we're doing like a wrathful practice in Vajrayana. In the sutras are mostly the meditation. The path of sutras is to train, to tame the mind of beings through peaceful and enriching methods. And sometimes the, what do you call it, the magnetizing methods, but mostly it's the peaceful methods, and then the enriching methods, increasing methods. In the 4 activities of enlightened action. It's in the Vajrayana and the inner tantras of Vajrayana where you have wrathful practices, where the compassion takes the form of wrath. Like in the Lotus Sutra, the classic skillful means of the Lotus Sutra is to, like the, what is it, the parable of the burning house, very famous, you know, probably this, where children are so engrossed in their amusement of their playing, they're pretending this, they're pretending, and they're playing this game. And they don't know that the house is on fire. And they're yelling, and it's in the sutras. Then the bodhisattva sees that they're not. He can break into that, can't crack that shell of that game creates. You know how when you used to get in trouble because you didn't come home when you were called. When your parents called you and you didn't come home, you didn't hear them. You were so engrossed like that. So then from the sutras, and the sutra is, and then the skillful means is to tell them that there's somebody outside giving away free candy to kids. And that will break them from their thing. One thing will supplant the other, and so then they'll run out. and then they'll look back and they'll see the whole house is in flames, and then they'll appreciate that. Anyway, so that idea. Sometimes even that won't work, and you have to like pick them up by the. This was not in the sutras, but sometimes you have to just pick them up, take them to the window, and throw them out into the little catching thing, the trampoline at the bottom. You know? Or take them out under your arm, kicking and screaming the whole way, but getting them out. And Vajrayana has these methods like this. And so it's a it's a breaking of it's a breaking of it's a downfall of Vajrayana to just practice love and loving kindness towards beings who are not who will not respond to loving kindness, especially if you know how to liberate them through some skillful means of Vajrayana. As it says, failure to liberate the minds of evil beings with rituals. So there's rituals to liberate the minds of sentient beings if you have the power. If you have that capacity to draw the mind of a being, to incorporate the mind of a being into a ritual where that consciousness can be liberated into the pure realm, and refuse to do it or don't do it, then that's a root downfall. Because by doing that, it takes a lot more. It takes the most amount of compassion. It's being much more kind to liberate beings that can't be liberated by any other way except through wrathful way than the peaceful way. It's more kind. So anyway, this is the 10th downfall. Remember the 10th downfall. Then there's also 10. It's easy to remember. Well, it's not, maybe not easy to remember, but there's also 10 conditions for that, 10 conditions that qualify an individual to be liberated. Like I mentioned, these couple, there's those who harm a Buddha, those who harm the Guru, those who wish to harm all sentient beings, those who want to destroy the Dharma, and so forth. Like this, the bodhisattvas, the evil boatman who had the intention to sabotage this boat, so that all the bodhisattvas, there was so many bodhisattvas on this boat, I was going to purposely sabotage it to sink it and kill the bodhisattvas. That was what he had in his mind. And so one bodhisattva who had the clairvoyant, the power of being able to see the minds of others, as some levels of bodhisattvas, and that unfolds for one. He saw that intention and then he killed him, knowing that his act would be so harmful to him. And out of his compassion for the boatman, he killed him and liberated him from that. And then, so that kind of having that power and then not using it is breaks your Vajrayana root. That's a root downfall. of course, we want, like we say in the beginning, our motivation, and like you should be restoring this intention all along when you're listening to the teachings, is to attain enlightenment with an understanding that through the powers of awakening, all the qualities of awakening are such that you will be able to enter into the lives of others at much greater depth and effect than presently we can do. So we should aspire to practice in order to attain awakening, but also in order to bring others to awakening, sometimes quicker than other ways. Of course, those that we have some kind of an interdependence with, we have more, say, power. We've been given more power to discuss things maybe with some people that we couldn't do with others, to lead others towards a wholesome frame of mind. Then 11th, here that says here, to apply discursive concepts to transcendent reality. In other words, to kind of water down the actual experience of recognizing the nature of mind by having a lot of concepts, by conceptualizing, by making concepts about it. Believing that intellectual understanding is the ultimate understanding. When we have concepts about the ultimate, it's only a measure of our own mental conceptualizing ability. It's a measure of our limitations to have concepts about transcendent reality, says. Like we say, karaklode. Again, referring to Rinpoche's text, karaklode means original purity transcends ordinary consciousness. Ordinary consciousness is what intellectually understands things. So to believe that intellectually understanding things, being able to conceptualize or verbalize about the ultimate nature of your mind, and that's equivalent to experiencing it or recognizing it, is a root downfall. Also, to have concepts about bliss, the nature of the enlightened body, speech, and mind of Buddhas. Falls under this category. If you have had the view, whatever you've recognized as emptiness, even though there may be a conceptual process, like a generation stage is a concept, but it's a concept. But the context for a generation stage is the development of the three samadhis, which is the samadhi of suchness, which is what we're talking about. The samadhi of suchness, which is emptiness. So if through that process or through reasoning, like emptiness can be also understood and recognized by repeated understanding through the methodology of reasoning. It's unreasonable to think that things exist, and exploring or examining things to prove it, and through various ways. We talked about, you can go to the archive on the Heart Sutra. Very clearly, the Heart Sutra clearly presents those things in a very concise way. But the teachings on the Heart Sutra are what I'm referring to as a Mahayana process. Generation stage practice and the three samadhis is a Vajrayana. So here, that also means if you have had direct recognition of it, then not to recollect that is a downfall. Not recollecting the view. And then number 11 is, oh, right, that's what I just finished. Then 12th downfall is to cause those with faith to turn away from spiritual pursuit. Particularly Tantra. Or a spiritual path. To ignore those with faith who seek spiritual assistance if one has the potential to help them. So to ignore that or to blow them off if they have faith. Also, not guarding your mind and acting so that others lose faith. Acting in such a way, it's like in the lojong, in the discipline that we were mentioning earlier, the discipline of the slogan. One of the, there's honoring all the vows you've taken. There's these three principles, and the second is to act foolishly or to do things to kind of express or to show that you're beyond concepts. And especially lojong, well, not especially in lojong. I think for all of us, we need to become more, we should be humble in our practice and not, like in the lojong, it says you should act as though others perceived you as not being a good practitioner at all. And not to show off how beyond good and bad or you are. So guard your mind, or not guarding your mind and acting so others lose faith is a downfall. And deceiving others by your actions is also a root downfall in this category, number 12. If others have faith and your actions contribute to offending them, then you've broken your Vajrayana Samaya. Then 13th one has to do with what's called Samaya substance, which has to do with failing to participate in Vajrayana, Vajrayana in the Gana Chakra ceremonies, not offering tzolk. Usually, if you take an empowerment and then you accept the Samaya, then, of course, before you accept Samaya, maybe the Vajra Master, who's the one that you have receiving the empowerment from, they might say, okay, now you've had the empowerment, and now you're going to take the Samaya, which is the life force of the empowerment. Well, usually it's introduce it. So they'll either say, okay, and your Samaya is that you have to do this, that, and the other thing. Then you repeat after me. So and you did it. And that you can also, in your own heart, say, okay, this empowerment was very moving up to this point, so I make a commitment to recite the mantra, the root mantra of this mandala every day for the next 3 years, 100 times without fail. And then you recite. Or something. Anyway, that's a time when you could make a commitment. But here, the 13th root down. Oh gosh. Yeah. To fail, the way it reads is to fail to accept the Samaya substances. And this has to do with maybe having a view that having a let's say it, holding to the lower view and not participating in the Vajrayana Gana Chakra. Tok means Gana Chakra, Tzolkor. Like you're a vegetarian, and so you don't eat meat. That's in the tzolk. That's breaking your Vajrayana. That's a downfall. Or alcohol. You don't drink alcohol because of your purity. It has to do with your purity. That kind of refusal. You're almost, it's very difficult to be a vegetarian without some kind of conceit or arrogance, not arrogance, what do you call it? Pride. You can't help it. You just can't help it. If you're just by yourself, it doesn't come up. But if you're with others who eat meat, you can't help it. Think that, and no, I don't eat meat. Like, just to say that is kind of special. I'm special. I don't eat meat. You can't help but think that way, or else, that's why I don't say I'm a vegetarian. I don't know if I'm a vegetarian or not, but I don't eat meat. I know. If I can help it. And so far, for accepting talk, I can help it. I can help. I'm in control. I'm not on a life raft with like 3 chunky people, and we're starving to death, and one of them's almost dead, and I could cut them up and eat them. I'm not in that position. If I was, I would probably do that, you know, eat them before they got rotten, you know. Because of the previous one about abusing the skandhas or self-mortification, you know. Anyway, so here it has to do with holding this kind of attitude, or if you're a monk and you have a vow against intoxications, then even 1 drop of alcohol is forbidden. I believe. And of course, there's nothing about eating meat, and Buddhism doesn't really talk so much about meat. In the Hinayana, in the sutras, the Pali Canon, and these Pratimoksha sutras, and the sutras, the Vinaya, it talks only about the 3 impurities, or your food has to be free of the 3 impurities, and that means that meat can't be the animal. It's impure if an animal was slaughtered for you. Like, oh, let's invite the monk over and we'll kill the sheep and feed the monk. That would be considered impure, and you have to refuse it, avoid it. Other one is if it's killed for you, if it's killed, if you know it was killed. If you know it was killed for you didn't see it killed, but you have a hunch it was killed. Even if you have a hunch, and it's impure. So these are 3. Then that meat is forbidden, but otherwise it's not. The Mahayana and the sutras, then, because basically it doesn't really fit eating meat at the same time as you are training your mind to see all beings as being your mother. That's the kind of the break point where you have to not become a vegetarian necessarily, but you can't eat meat because it would be like eating your mother. It doesn't fit with that kind of training. So then Vajrayana, then again you go back to the meat eating, but then it's even any kind of meat. If it's consecrated, then it would be a break in your Vajrayana downfall to refuse to eat meat. Like in the teachings, when I gave Rinpoche's teachings on Tsok, there's one story of maybe Dodrup Chen, I forget now. The Rinpoche, he asked the Tripan, and there was no meat. And he asked the Tripan, where's the meat? And he says, oh, we didn't have any meat. And so he took his dog and he cut up in his throne, and he cut the dog open, and he cut some gizzards, guts out, and gave it to Chupan. The Chupan took it. This was just, in the 19th century. Because Papa Rinpoche was there. And he gave it to the Chupan. The Chupan took it there, and he said, okay, cut that up. And he cut it all up into pieces and put it in a soak, laughing, because you have to have meat at that time. and then everybody, he handed it out to everybody, and then who is it told me this? I think Chakra Rinpoche, because it's in his book that I was reading from, and so people like tucked under their puja bench and stuff like that, and everything when they got it, and of course then the Rinpoche, he set the dog to the side, it was all laid out, and then at the end he snapped his fingers and the dog got up and ran away, all healed. And then Patrul Rinpoche, at the end, everyone was leaving. Patrul, he was just kind of a hobo-looking homeless person, and by choice. And he went around and collected all the pieces that everybody had left, And so now we have that. They chopped it up, made pills out of it and everything. It's called Patrul's Tzok. So to fail to accept Samaya substance, holding to lower views, and then not participating in Vajrayana Gana chakras. That one. Also, I heard that the original, Ashwagosha's original, this I just heard recently, this 13th one is actually says failure to apply the remedy to a misdeed, failure to apply an antidote to misdeeds, negative action. I don't know how that got in there, but also I've seen where this one is also includes not using mudras in your practice, and not using implements that you know how to use. '14th, the last one, is you break your Vajrayana Samaya with disrespecting women, or to speak in general disparagingly about women or to women. Of course, this has to do with women or men talking about women. And also, as I heard, one Rinpoche said that also because, of course, in the general teachings here, because women, looking down on women is to look down on a Dakini, because in the Tantra, the nature of wisdom is the Dakini. And so it's like disparaging wisdom, even though, yeah. Also, and this, like I was saying, this one Rinpoche said, and then the same thing also is to disparage men who are the nature of skillful means and compassion. So anyway, so not to look, to disrespect or to look down on women as a gender is to break Vajrayana commitment, Vajrayana Samaya. Of course, for these root downfalls to occur, you have to have the precepts of accepting them. These aren't just social behavioral things. They have to do with having received a tantric empowerment and taken the precepts of Tantra, of Vajrayana. And you must be sound, mentally sound. You have to be sane or mentally sound. If you're not okay mentally, then it may not be the case that you're in that you are capable of keeping or avoiding the downfalls. If you're able to not, how does this work now? If you are, the benefits of avoiding the downfalls, the benefits of avoiding the downfalls are such like, even if you can't practice development stage practice, which is the first kind of level of accomplishment, of vase empowerment, if you're not able to persevere in the 2 stages of generation and completion practice in this life, but you have maintained your Samaya has not been defiled, then it's taught how after 16 rebirths you will attain enlightenment. Which is the longest time possible, just maintaining Samaya only. Then, if you practice the 2 stages of generation and completion stage practice, and honor and avoid the downfalls, then you'll gradually reach liberation within 7 lifetimes, or within 7 lifetimes, you will, wait a minute, let's go back. If you're unable to persevere in generation and completion stage practice in this lifetime, but you avoid and keep pure, not defile by the 14 root downfalls, then in the 16 lifetimes, you will attain enlightenment. In 7 lifetimes, within 7 lifetimes, you will be able to practice the generation and completion stage practices and gradually reach liberation in that lifetime. The best and fastest way is to maintain Samaya and be diligent in these 2 stages of generation and completion state practice. That's the best case scenario, or the best kind of person would be the person who engages diligently in the practices, the two practices, and maintains Samaya. Then that's the kind of person that attains enlightenment, rainbow body, in that very lifetime, this lifetime. Then the average person maintaining Samaya and practicing the 2 stages then realizes their luminosity in this lifetime, realizes this luminous nature, becomes very accessible to the generation and completion stage practice. And then at death, then that luminosity merges with the genuine absolute luminosity, and one attains liberation at death, at the dawning of ground luminosity. And then what do you say? I don't want to say below average. I guess below average, or for common engagement due to your practice, whatever practice you have, and particularly your faith in the guru and the aspiration. You have a fervent thread of aspiration for rebirth in the pure realms. For instance, if you have an aspiration for Amitabha's Pure Land, which is the most entrance-friendly, you could say, Pure Land, then at death you will attain, and if you keep these 14 root downfalls, or if you avoid these root downfalls, then you will attain the Nirmanakaya pure realm in the Bardo period, in the period of the Bardo. So, best case this lifetime, average case at the time of death, and then lesser is liberation, enlightenment in the Bardo, into the Nirmanakaya pure realm. So those are the benefits of guarding Samaya. It doesn't, guarding Samaya is not, I mean, Vajrayana, if you look at all of the bodhisattvas, I need to move on maybe. Anyway, it's not like, yes, in the words of Gyatso Rinpoche, it's not for happiness. It's not for getting over your depression. It's not for trying to not have panic attacks. It's for enlightenment in this lifetime, at death, or in the Bardo. That's your focus. That's a Vajrayana focus. Nothing worldly goals. You don't check how you're doing always by conventional, what do you call it? Those the big, thick medical with all the numbers that diseases have, that qualify you to get paid for this one or that one, and it doesn't fit into any of that. What is it? Code? What is it? ICD-10. Yes, that one. Yeah, that it's not for that. Not to avoid those. Like Gyatso Rinpoche says, somebody's complaining about their depression. They practice. You may be depressed until you go from the 10th level bodhisattva to Buddhahood. You might be depressed the whole way. Like, who cares? I think he said, who cares? That sounds like Rinpoche. It doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. Those are just your traces, your habitual samsaric traces that keep going until we attain enlightenment. We don't know what's going to be purified away and what will be our kind of the thread of our driving force to keep going. We can't say, and we don't know. I should mention also, before we can't do the 27 Samayas of the Nyingma. Okay, there's, where's 2 and 3? Another pattern has to do with it's not in addition to these, but since some of these, like these are five samayas, and since the first 3 have already been discussed in the 14 root downfalls, but so I'll just go to the last 2 of these, which are part of another system, but I think they might be helpful or relevant to you, and giving you something more to be mindful of. Once you receive empowerment, then really that you do have a samaya to maintain mantras and mudras. There's 3 kinds of mantras. One is just the root mantra, which is also called a seed syllable, the cause of everything in your practice. It's called the unerring cause mantra. So if whatever seed syllable you have from your practice, then you should keep that in mind as much as you can. It says uninterruptedly, but at least every 4 hours or monthly. That's why some of you don't practice much, then you offer talk once a month. It purifies your not practicing, and it enriches your ability to practice and creates the interdependence for the success of your practice when you do practice. So talk is so important. When you get up in the morning, it's good to just think immediately of your guru or of your seed syllable. And when you go to bed at night, then think of the seed syllable and your heart, bring it into your heart, and go to sleep. So that, because that is your true nature, is the essence of your true nature. So not to forget that, not to interrupt that, to make it a thread, like a garland of mindfulness. And then there's the mantras for the development of the deity, and then there's the mantras of the activity of the deity. So there's all these different kinds of mantras, but we should be aware that our responsibility is to use mantras as a way to accomplish the generation stage practice. And then there's the mudras. We should use the mudras, hand gestures. Then there's 10 not to broadcast the 10 secrets. That's what I wanted to talk to. Not to broadcast the 10 secrets. Or don't pry it out of others. That's why it's good to know this. There's 4 general things not to broadcast. One is the view that you're developing. what's their view? And then there's their yidam. Of course, this is not necessary. This is not like between you and your guru. Between you and your guru, this is what you do want to talk about. But what view are you doing your Munro, and you're cultivating devotion and impermanence, and your view is the impermanence, and the path is one practicing, noticing it everywhere, and so forth. So their view is not always, there's not one, well, there's one ultimate view, which is that there is no view. But the view is what you're working on in your how you expect to wish, or how you expect to see things, your idea behind what you do. And the second one is not to broadcast what your practice, what yidam, who is your yidam. Also, when you receive a certain kind of empowerment, oftentimes, or if you receive a grand empowerment, you're given a name, a secret name by your guru. And that's something only you should know. You shouldn't reveal your secret name to anyone. And also, you should not reveal any signs of you being able to accomplish any of the four kinds of activity: pacifying, enriching, magnetizing, and wrathful activity. Not to reveal anything you have accomplished in those spheres of actions. So your view, the yidam, and name, and signs, keep to yourself, between you and your teacher. Then our next four, called intermediate secrets, has to do with your retreat. And of course, some of these, anyway, the four things about your retreat you should keep secret: where it is, what the duration is, who your companions will be, and what implements or articles of body, speech, and mind you will be using. That's nobody's business but yours. So these are four secrets about retreat, not to broadcast. Of course, this particularly has to do with Vajrayana, generation and completion stage practice, or Mahamudra or Mahāti. Then there's one topic worthy of secrecy, is the articles and ceremonies of tantric, not to show or talk about. Like even nowadays, everything is kind of cracked open, but even when Rinpoche did the first Drupchen in Williams, only the people involved knew about it. And nobody, he forbid people from taking pictures or showing. Somebody showed me a picture of just a procession, and he said, "I'm really going to get in trouble for showing you this, but I really want to." So it's just to have anything to do, like when they, and like he says in like Kato Gompa, then back in the day they would, before Chinese time, I would just lock the front door and that would be it. Nobody knew anything. And even they would open it up and everyone had attained rainbow body. Chen. So this kind of thing. And of course, and that like in there are restrictions in some empowerments with some deities where you don't mention that you've had that empowerment or that empowerment even exists. In other words, it's nothing really to talk about. Like practicing the Dharma is not really a subject of conversation. I think that's might be what it comes down to. Just then revealing what personal advice you got from your Lama is a breaking of Samaya. Yeah, those kind of things. So I just wanted to mention those because maybe you don't know that these kinds of things about talking about things, or because even when you receive the V's empowerment, the first empowerment, that's the first time that you're actually authorized to see an image of that deity. In Tibet, we've kind of inherited this, I wouldn't say corrupt, but certainly the assumption in Tibet was that everyone was a Buddhist, everyone had Vajrayana karma, and so everyone had an empowerment, and so they just hung things up. And that was definitely not the way it was done in India. I mean, India came and then it went to Tibet. But when it went to Tibet, I don't know, it was a top-down king that made sure that everyone received whatever teachings they needed and translations and everything. It was just Buddhist, Vajrayana, Vajrayana, Vajrayana. And so things became very, it was not, what do you call it, boundaries. There was no boundaries. Because in some circles, things were kept very close, and the higher teachings and so forth were kept very pure and sound. But from the V's empowerment point of view, the generation stage point of view, it was very open. And I think that it's not going to be, I can't imagine that it's going to be possible to go backwards from that one. Or kind of, that's just the way it is. But you should know it anyway. You should understand. We should all understand what the process of Vajrayana is. Wait a minute. I want to cover one more thing, and that is purification, the other half of the topic. Okay. Of course, it would be almost impossible to avoid Samaya breaking. Here we're just talking about the 14 root downfalls. Then there's the Samaya of non-existence. The Samaya of, there's all these other Samayas on the higher levels, so that we hear, and even in our confession, the hundreds of thousands of categories of Samaya commitments. Of course, basically, if everything is pure from the beginning, karak lode, everything is pure from the beginning, then anything, any indulgence in what is impure breaks the truth. I mean, that there's the truth. There's only one truth. Like I say, like a deity, like one face deity, is that one face refers to one truth, basically one emptiness, that there's no samsara or nirvana. The same, they're both the same. And it's not, it's non-dualistic. It's not, it's non-dual. It's not one. One doesn't mean the one, that we're all one. It's all one. That doesn't mean that Buddhism does not, by the way. It's different. It's not like Advaita philosophy. And Nime means, I don't know all the Sanskrit anymore. It's a different word. Advaita means that there's not two, there's one. Godhead, or what have you. But in Buddhism, non-dual, which even in some schools, I would say, lower schools of Buddhist philosophy and practice, they don't accept non-duality. The word doesn't occur. Non-duality really is Mahayana Vajrayana term, and it's synonymous with purity. Just like in, anyway. So what was I getting at? I'm there, but I had a thread, how to purify. Okay, what covers everything is, as long as we are in a non-dual, as long as we are in a dualistic frame of mind, say, frame of mind, our way of being is kind of is dualistic, then we can't help but be breaking Samaya on this most sublime or most subtle level of that. Anything that is not, anything that comes from non-dual, anything that comes from duality is suffering. Just like Jigme Rinpoche says, any word that's uttered based on duality is miscommunicated, is miscommunication. So given that, like Atisha says, oh, in my whole life, I've been a monk and I never broke any vows. If I, of course, Vinaya is mostly of physical and verbal. It's not that difficult. When I took a bodhisattva vows, then I broke vows, but I never, if I broke them in the morning, I had them confessed and purified by midday. If I broke them in the afternoon, I had them confessed and purified by evening time. Vajrayana, when I took a Vajrayana vows, suddenly it was like rain pouring on the roof, my breaking of vows. So, okay, so given duality as that's where we're in duality. So we have these guidelines, these kind of dualistic guidelines. Don't do this, don't do that. If you do that, then you purify it. That's a process of practice. I mean, purifying means being mindful enough to know that what you did is keeping you from wisdom. Say non-duality, say purity, not in the pure impure way, but in the absolute nature way, non-dualistic way. So there's a reason to be mindful of our gross negative action, whether it's the 10 non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind, killing, stealing, lying, wrong views, and so forth, and contemplate karma in order to antidote our habit of engaging in wrong views. Contemplate the interdependent nature of phenomena, the 12 links of interdependence, and so forth. Understand the working and machinery of the skandhas that purifies negative karma of wrong views. And refraining from physical and verbal negativity. And similarly in the bodhisattva path, mindfulness and awareness to know when you're being afflicted, when your afflictions are causing you to think and act. So through meditation, we get to the urge to commit level. We get to recognize urges before they manifest in any visible or oral or even into thoughts. We just have urges, and through just regular meditation, mindfulness, then those urges lose their power before they reach action. Why we can purify, aside from the fact that everything is pure from the beginning, that doesn't really, that's the basis of why we should even bother. Like, why bother? Well, because there is this pure basis. It's not just sitting there waiting to be revealed, actually. It's more like it's permeating everything. All your negative actions are permeated, inseparable from your pure nature. But that is creating the inability to see it, to recognize it. And so the basis of purification is this already pure nature. Without that, why bother? Why not just, rob a bank and kill your enemies? Why not? The relative fact that an action, whether it's a Vajrayana downfall or a Mahayana bodhicitta downfall or a Vinaya or we call it a Pratimoksha, individual liberation, Hinayana downfall, whatever it is, it's made up of parts. It's a thing. Oh, I did this thing. I thought this thing. I said this thing. I did this thing. I had a subtle thought of hatred towards my guru. Very subtle, but I did it. It's a thing. It had a beginning, a duration, and an end. Therefore, it's impermanent. It's not permanent. It's not a one thing. It's made up of parts. And anything that's made up of parts will be deconstructed over time or will be, added to over time, or it will be completely deconstructed by a method. So we should really understand, even in the middle of us having to commit a negative action, we can purify it in its process, in the very process of doing a negative action. We can purify it with love and compassion, with aspirations, with dedication, if we're forced to. Buddhists, then of course we separate, we distance ourselves from situations where we have to act negatively, physically, or we just zip, send the zip emoji. Not from me. I'm not saying anything. We can do that, but circumstances arise and we have to act. So we should know. We're not just, okay, well, I know this is bad, but I'm going to say it's good. Or just do it out of impulse, urge, no thought at all. We should always have mindfulness. Know what I'm about to do is the result of some urge that I can't control, either by my own mind, my own brain, my own emotions, or because I'm defending something. So out of love or something, you have to do something. But you should know that the difference between what leads you to wisdom and what distances you from wisdom. For Buddhism, we can call that morality if we want. I don't know if that's probably not the right word. It has to do with wisdom, how it is helping or harming you moving towards wisdom. And the more pain you're experiencing in ordinary, even for a reasonably good practitioner, even pain distances you from wisdom. We can convert some pain into a path of wisdom, but so that's why pain is the nomenclature, the language we use for bad rebirth or a good rebirth. It's not that there's a bad rebirth or a good rebirth. From a big point of view, any rebirth is bad. It's samsara. There's no such thing as a good rebirth, technically. Buddha didn't see those four visions of, sick people, old people, dying dead person, and then set out for the path to free himself from that. He didn't do it, for happiness. He did it he saw that birth was a problem. Samsara is a problem. So purification occurs by deconstructing an act because it's made up of parts. It's made up of intention, ability, or what do you say? There's a vehicle, there's a way to do it. So if you want to kill somebody, but you don't have a weapon, and you're less likely to kill someone, but you have the same, all you have to do is purify that one thing, which is intention. How long did you have it? How strong was it? What was it motivated by? Hatred, desire, greed, jealousy, envy, pride, patriotism, whatever it was. So those are all things that contribute to it. And then there's an opportunity to do it. So they're all parts. If any one or more of those parts aren't there, the act was still committed because it began in your mind. But if it just began and ended in your mind, then that's less than if it began, was carried out successfully, and you rejoiced, then it's embedded. So as Buddhists, we walk on grass, we drive in cars, we create carbon traces. It's impossible in this life not to create bad karma, you could say, not to create negative actions. But we can purify them even as we're driving, if we're mindful and not not have the pretense or not think that you're not doing anything. So karma can be definitely purified. It's actually empty by nature. It's empty of any identity. In the, what we'd like to say, the grand scheme of things, not in the grand scheme of things. In the ultimate sense, which shouldn't be disregarded. We're saying, oh yeah, that's fine ultimately, but then relatively, la la la. But no, actually, the ultimate truth is the relative truth, perceived from the point of view of someone who is freed of karma. So there's nothing delusory about delusory. It's not a delusion to when you're purifying through, say, Vajrasattva practice. And this way I was taught, like, always understand that you and your negative action and your purification practice are all empty. That there is no confessor, there's no confession, and there's nothing to confess. Always know that, and then carefully and undistractedly feel regret, feel remorse, resolve not to commit in the future, carry out the antidote correctly, do all that stuff very precisely, thoroughly, and powerfully as you can. But always, there's no conflict between being very precise about all of that with tears rolling down your face, and at the same time understanding and recognizing that none of it has any actual existence. The basis of purification is not just a beginning thought. It always is there. Just like the white shirt that you're washing, it's always been white. It'll always be white. You don't have to clean all the dirt off and then make it white. So same thing. Okay, so maybe next time we can, if this provoked any questions, we can have time next time to have questions, because it was a big topic and I did want to kind of put it out, all the things that we need to avoid and how wonderful and beautiful it is that the gurus, the teachers, the masters, the lamas, the mentors, the virtuous friends, the elders have kept the teachings of Buddha going until now. That enables us to actually live a good life and always keep heading towards wisdom. So if we can do the dedication of merit, the merit and the virtue of having first aroused a good motivation.
Do you want me to pass these out?
Oh, look, we don't have to, it's late. Okay. Yeah. Let's do this one. You have it up there? Okay, she's up there on the screen. No, it's this. Go ahead. Yes, pass it out. Yeah. Quick.
We're not going to, we're going to, which one are we going to do? Second page. Oh, oh.
Okay. All right. So we have this. I could just say, okay, dedicate the merit, and then in the snap of a finger, you can dedicate the merit. Like when you take a fly that you caught carefully outside, and you can dedicate. You don't have to, take extra lunch break or anything to dedicate the merit. But here we have the merit that was formulated by great bodhisattvas. All the virtue of this practice and all that is gathered throughout the 3 times I dedicate to all beings without exception so that they may attain Buddhahood. Following and emulating the omniscient and courageous Manjushri and likewise Samanthabhadra, I completely dedicate all virtue. Since dedicating merit is praised as supreme by victorious ones of the 3 times, I completely dedicate these roots of virtue for the sake of practicing excellent conduct. May the teachings of Lord Buddha, the only source of benefit and happiness, long remain in this world. May the lives of those who uphold these teachings be as stable as a victory banner. Supreme Bodhicitta is so very precious. Where it has not yet arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but evermore grow and flourish. Okay.